Gen Sports Corner back at you. It's the new year, baby. January 1st, 2024. You already know what time it is. For the YouTube fam, like, subscribe, all that extra stuff. For everybody else, let's go ahead and get into this because you know exactly what I'm going to talk about. You see the gear on. Eagles had a devastating loss yesterday. Completely set a bad tone. You know what? 2023 had a lot of things going on in it, so it was right for them to shit the bed in their last game in 2023 and get that out the way. Hopefully they buried that game ball and they're moving on. But they have a lot of things to work on. However, there are a lot of fixable issues, and I'll get into detail on that. So Eagles lost 35-31 to Arizona at home. Did not It was not a good look at all. And you look at it's not just that they lost, it's how they lost. They had plenty of opportunities to freaking bury this team. They had them with their our foot on their necks, and we let them up off the ground. And I want to go into some key stats, and I want to go into a couple key stats that I think many of you guys and gals out there, for y'all watching, are going to find very, very interesting. So going into this game, the Eagles had a really, really good chance of getting that number two seed, getting that division and title and getting that number two seed. But he messed around and lost to the Cardinals. And you look at some of the stats here, they ran the ball all over us. James Conner had his way. He went off. He had 26 carries for 128 yards, 4.9 yards a clip, one touchdown. Kyler Murray, he had his scrambles here and there. He really didn't have a great game in the first half, but he turned it on in the second half. You go from having a pick six thrown to City Jones, who returns it 99 yards, by the way, to actually throwing three touchdowns and ended up with 232 yards and having a completion percentage of almost 80+%. I mean, he really did his thing. And Jalen Hurts did his thing as well. I mean, three touchdowns, one pick on only 167 yards, but he's producing. So the offense did what they're supposed to do, but that defense, man, something to be desired in that run game. Because Michael Carter, 7 carries, 61 yards. Rondell Moore, he had 2 carries on some end arounds for 8 yards. I mean, they were doing what they wanted to do on the ground. And then in the air, what they were able to do was really a result of Kyler Murray scrambling around. Because he had one of those touchdowns, he was dead to rights. Josh Sweat had him in the backfield. He got out of that sack, scrambled around, and then threw a touchdown to James Conner, who caught it with one hand in the end zone. I'm not going to blame the defense for plays like that, but there are plenty of other opportunities where they left a lot to be desired. And going into this game, one thing that stood out to me is this Arizona defense is horrific. They're one of the worst defenses in the league, and particularly they play zone defense against the pass a significant portion of the time. That's really their bread and butter. That's what they go to. They play zone coverage 82.3% of the time, which is ranked for fifth in the league. They only play man coverage 16.3% of the time, which ranks for 27th in the league. So you're getting zoned. They don't really have a lot of talent back there outside of Buda Baker, and they're trying to really give you smoke and mirrors and get their anemic pass rush, which is not good, time to at least put some type of pressure on the quarterback. And then you go ahead and look at this Eagles team, and courtesy of Pro Football Focus, against man, the majority of the passes are going to AJ Brown, especially on these slants, these comeback routes. He's getting targeted 37.7% of his routes. Schmidt getting targeted on 16.2% of his routes against man coverage, and that's pretty much where the ball is going if you're getting man. But you go against a team like this that's playing zone all the time, and you look at the distribution to wide receivers in our receiving core against zone, AJ Brown, that percentage drops down from 37.7% all the way down to 22% of his routes run he's getting targeted against zone. Schmitty, man versus zone, his target rate goes up from 16.2% up to 19.4%. And then, ironically, one thing that stuck out to me, and we saw Julio Jones get 2 touchdowns. I haven't heard from Julio Jones in quite some time this year. But Julio Jones had 2 touchdown passes, and if you look at the target distribution against zone, he's he's got he's been targeted on 8.9% of his routes here. I got all these tabs opened up, so I lose track sometimes. He's targeted on 8.9% of his routes, the same percentage as Quez Watkins, and a 4% higher percentage than Zacchaeus, Olamide Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus has run 203 routes, but he only has 7 receptions for 116 yards going into that Week 17 game. Julio Jones only ran 90 routes against zone, but he had 5 receptions. He had only 2 fewer receptions against zone coverage, even though he ran 113 less routes than Zacchaeus did. So against zone and against a team that's zone heavy, you Julio Jones is going to be hella active. He's just going to run them routes and just sit down in those zones and just look to get easy catches. And he did that yesterday. So, in my opinion, the offense wasn't the issue. The only issue that I'm finding with the offense is one, they're not utilizing Deandre Swift nearly as much as they need to. You have one of the best running backs in the league, in my opinion. Agree to disagree or throw your comments in. You have one of the best running backs in the league, and you're refusing to really give him the ball as much as he should get. He had 13 carries yesterday, but he was running the ball for 4.7 yards per clip. Why does he only have 13 carries? That makes no sense. Jalen Hurts had 2/3 of the amount of carries as Deandre Swift had. Now I know they run a lot of read option and whatnot. I mean zone read, excuse me. But still, DeAndre Swift should be getting the ball a lot more. Second off, too many runs out of shotgun. All right, these are quick, easy fixes. Too many runs out of shotgun. You don't have a lot of options in terms of what gap you're going to hit. So it gets predictable after a certain point. You come out in these, let's say, 5 to 6 formations that are really your bread and butter, and you have 2 to 3 run plays out of each formation, uh, and you're pretty much running a zone read out of each one of these formations. You can either run off tackle, go to that C gap, which is outside of the left or the right tackle, or you're running right into that A gap. You're getting a handoff. He decides if he's going to give you the ball, and then you boom go right into the A gap. B gap if it's open, but you're looking to go into the A gap or cut back to the other gate A gap. But it gets very predictable after a while. So and it doesn't take a rocket scientist to go ahead and just start varying up your approach. I.e., in my opinion, get your ass under center and start running the ball out of some of these more power formations because it gives you more options as to what type of runs you're going to call. You can run 34 dive out of the A gap. You can run a stretch play off tackle. You can run more counter plays, and the spacing is what makes it more effective. It's not necessarily the play call that you're running. You can run the same run plays out of shotgun, but it's about the spacing and the timing. With the out of shotgun, you're getting the ball quicker, and you have to make those decisions in a snap, in a snap of an instant. Versus being under center, quarterback gets the ball. You have 1.5 to maybe 2 seconds before the ball goes from the quarterback's hand into the running back's hands. So it gives you a chance to read what's going on, and you can use that to start to manipulate the defense and make yourself less predictable. But they're not doing that. Um, Mind you, like even the Super Bowl year, they were really heavy on working out a shotgun, and we started running the ball out of. It's actually the exact opposite. We were running under center a lot more, and then when Nick Foles came in, we did a lot of read option plays, right? Especially out of shotgun. You have to see what your personnel are, what is working for you, and go with that. If something's not working with you, the beauty of football is there's many different ways to skin a cat. If you're having issues running out of shotgun, get your ass under center and start to change up what you're doing. Um, Next thing I wanted to hit on is pre snap motion. They never bring a wide receiver, tight end, running back in motion pre snap. Not just because it looks cute or whatnot, but because you can get a read for what the defense is playing. You bring AJ Brown in motion from the right side all the way over to, let's say, the left guard, and then you can see if the cornerback follows him or not. If he follows him, it's a high chance that it's going to be man coverage. If the cornerback doesn't follow him, it's a high percentage chance that it's zone coverage. And then you can start to, once you know it's man or zone, now you can, once the play is snapped, now you can look at the safeties and see how they rotate. So if you bring AJ Brown, for example, across the field, bring him back, whatever, right, and nobody's following him, now you know it's zone coverage most likely. And then when the play is snapped, you can look at the safeties, the depth, where they're at from the line of scrimmage, to give you another cue on whether it's cover two versus cover three versus cover four. And then after the plays a snap, now you're already got in your mind it's going to be zone. Now you can see how do the safeties rotate after I snap the ball. Are both of them dropping back to each quarter of the field? Um, or to each third of the field, right? Or are they is one safety dropping into a hook zone and other safety going towards the deep middle, and that would be cover three versus cover two where they're both going like that. It makes everything a lot simpler, and you have to spend significantly less time trying to deduce what the defense is doing after the snap. And then lastly, the route concepts that are being called take far too long to develop. And hence you're allowing teams that may not even have that great of a pass rush to get 4, 5, 6, 7 seconds to get home, which most NFL players can do. Even the teams that have average players, you give them that much time, they'll get to you eventually. What typically happens 4 seconds in is the cornerbacks can't cover that long. However, if your routes are still developing 4 seconds in, well, then you're making it easier on the defensive back first and foremost, and then you're also giving more time for the pass rush that may be mediocre to actually get to you. And then when you play teams that are better that actually have an average to above average pass rush, now things really start getting dicey. So you're going to have problems with the teams like the San Francisco 49ers of the world, or the Dallas Cowboys, or the Bills, right? You're making it intentionally or unintentionally more difficult for yourself by not taking care of these little details. And it's not a talent issue, right? It's not a talent issue at all. It's really they I think an arrogance issue, an ego issue. And look, I'll put it out there. Nick Sirianni, if you're looking, um, you be the judge on whether I'm valid with some of the things that I'm saying or not. But I'm just gonna call it like I see it. It's not hard to fix these things. Like I said, simple things like just pre-snap motion, bring people into motion. You see every team in the NFL do it, even the teams that aren't that good. Now it might not help them because they don't have the talent, but the fact at least they're making it easier on an average quarterback to be able to know what he's seeing before the ball snap to give himself more of a chance than he otherwise would have by not doing pre-snap motion. All right, so those are some of the things that really stood out to me. You got a team that's playing zone all the time, and you exploit that, which is good. You have a team that's playing zone all the time, but you're not doing pre-snap motion. So you don't get a chance to really start manipulating these guys because when you're playing zone, and now guys are coming from the right side of the field to the left, now you from time to time you'll get a lot of miscommunication. Hey, is that your guy who's picking him up? Where's he going? And then you go back to the other side. Oh shit, who got him now? Right? Doesn't take a lot of effort. Do it. Get it done. Stop fucking around. All right. Let me go ahead to these comments real quick. Yo, Myth. Yo, Happy New Year, man. Appreciate it, man. Right back at you. Um, you know what I mean? Like, stop playing around. So those are some of the things that stood out to me. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. But that is my surface level breakdown of the stats, and I'll go deeper into the stats when the season's over. I have a couple that I think are going to be of note that people kind of need to hear to get a sense of where the Eagles are at. But those are some stats that really stuck out to me even before this game took place, and even more so after seeing what played out on Sunday. All right. Now, moving forward, let's go ahead and look at the playoff scenarios and what things are looking like going into Week 18. So, the Eagles 11-5, the Cowboys 11-5, won by the skin of their teeth versus the Lions. I mean, we won't even get into that, but two good teams. Regardless of what you think about the call on the penalty at the end, they still did the things that they needed to do to even be in a position to have a call decide the outcome of the game. Okay, so They're a very solid team. And going into this last week, now by losing that game against the Cardinals at home, now we need the Cowboys to lose. Because even if we win, if the Cowboys win, they still win the division. So if the Cowboys lose and then we get our win, then we'll get the number one seed. So right now, as it stands, we have a 22% chance. Yeah, I think we have a 22% chance of getting the number two seed. No, 19% chance of getting the number two seed. And the Cowboys have a 78% chance of getting the number two seed, depending on if they lose or not next week. And then most likely we're going to end up with the five seed. We have an 81% chance of that, and the Cowboys have a 19% chance of that. And you'll be looking at playing on the road against a team like the Buccaneers, right? Buccaneers are probably going to be the four seed. They have a 72% chance of being a four seed. So most likely we'll match up with them unless the Cowboys don't take care of their end of the deal. And then you look at these teams going into the playoffs. We had pretty good odds of winning the Super Bowl prior to this Week 17 game. Going into Week 17, you look at the top four teams: the Ravens, 49ers, Eagles, Dolphins. So you have two from the NFC, two from the AFC. We had our remaining strength of schedule was 31st in the league, obviously, because the Cardinals and the Giants suck, even though we lost to the Cardinals. We had a 100% chance to make the playoffs because we clinched it already. And we had a 10.5% chance of winning the Super Bowl, which was third best. The 49ers having a 19% chance of winning the Super Bowl, and the Ravens having a 28% chance of winning the Super Bowl. But even so, going into that game, it was pretty much the 49ers and the Eagles. The Cowboys were kind of that next team on the outside along with the Lions. Now, the Eagles and the Cowboys have flip-flopped. Now, the 49ers have the best chance of making it out of the NFC. The Cowboys have, I think, like a 19% chance or something like that of getting to the Super Bowl. And then the Eagles and the Lions are knocked down to about a 6% chance of actually winning the Super Bowl. Making the Super Bowl, I don't know. But winning the Super Bowl, they've dropped down to where the Cowboys and Lions were at about a 6% chance. So they have a lot of soul searching to do because they can be one of the best teams that are playing on the road in these playoffs if they make these simple adjustments. But again, I think that comes down to ego and arrogance. The best tangerine to oranges comparison I can make would be the Dallas Cowboys back in the day when it used to be them boys, right? With Jimmy Johnson and Barry Switzer in '96. And I remember that one game against the Eagles where we stopped them like 3 or 4 straight times on fourth down. I mean, they ran the ball with Emmitt Smith up the gut. They got stuffed, and then they tried to say that they didn't call the play in time. The play clock ran out, so they let the Cowboys get another play in. And we stopped them again, and then they got another chance for some other BS reason. Like they were really trying to give the Cowboys a chance to win, and they ran it again, and they got stopped. They ran the same running play 3 times in a row. And you know why they did that? Because they had the Great Wall of Dallas with Newton and Larry Allen and all them boys. And they had Emmitt Smith. And then you had Michael Irvin at wide receiver. You had Troy Aikman. They were stacked. And in their mind, this is just my opinion, they're like, across the board, position for position, we are just better than everybody in the league, including the Eagles we're playing to get today. We're going to run the ball, run this same play that 3 times in a row. You stop this 2 times, we're going to run it again because we just think we're going to run over you. And guess what happened? They got a rude awakening. Now, they went on to win the Super Bowl that year, but they didn't try that crap again. I think they got back to the basics and just let the talent speak for itself as opposed to trying to get ultra aggressive, try to reinvent the wheel, and then end up losing in a scenario you had no business losing in. And I see the Eagles in a similar spot right now. They're loaded. But they looked at this Arizona team, I think the coaching staff, and said, hey, man, and just a lot of teams, honestly, this year, we're better than them. We can do what we want. We can run routes that take 10 seconds to develop. I'm exaggerating, but you get the point. Our line is the best in the league. We can hold our blocks for that long, and we can get aggressive. And on top of that, forget throwing checkdowns. And even when we do run plays that have checkdowns built into them, we're not checking down to those guys. We're taking deep shots. We're going for kill shots every time. Forget setting up the hook with the jab. Let's just throw 5 hooks in a row. That's the functional equivalent that I can think of. You have one of the best left hooks in the game, but instead of setting it up with the jab and making it really spooky for the person to not know when it's coming, no, let's just throw 4 hooks in a row like Ryan Garcia and get clipped, even though we had the guy hurt and Javante Tank Davis. Apologies, I'm not privy to his name change yet, but why do the same thing over and over again when you have so many tools? Why limit yourself to one and box yourself in? All right, so let's go ahead and look at the comments again here. Would you also blame, Ryan says, do you also blame the offense for not being able to respond after Arizona was starting to crawl back? I don't, I talked about this earlier, and I don't, I was talking to somebody else about this. The play calling, not the players. I don't see any quit in the players or the team. If anything, even with the defense, we were getting hit hard, but we were laying some hard hits on that Arizona team. It's really about being out of position on some of these play calls, specifically because you have Slay out, so you're playing a little bit more zone, and even then, the Eagles are mainly, they have a mix of man and zone, but they like to lean towards man from time to time. And Greg Dortch, he is their go-to guy against man coverage. And guess who had the most receptions in that game? And I think he had a touchdown too. Greg Dortch, right? When you start to delve into the numbers, all these guys that are popping up out of nowhere, they don't have big games against another team, but all of a sudden they're looking like Randy Moss against your team. When you start to look at the numbers and how they're utilized, things start to make a little more sense. And he is their go-to guy against man, and he did his thing. He's not going against Slay. He's going against Ricks, and he's going against Sidney Brown, who's playing in the slot from time to time. Vontae Maddox looked rusty with his first game back, which was to be expected. But, that's what you're dealing with, right? Like I said before, Deandre Swift only got the ball 13 times in the game on the ground. Now catching the ball at the backfield, I mean, that's a whole nother animal. I mean, let's see. He had 1 target for 1 reception. Whoop-de-doo, right? So he had 14 touches in the entire game. Unacceptable, right? That's a coaching decision. That's flat out a coaching decision. Over his career, he's got a lot of soft tissue injuries. And I know they're trying to keep the wear and tear down. I think one reason for that is he's played phenomenally this year, and they may view him as a long-term option, so they don't want to put him at undue risk for injury. That being said, it's the playoffs. These are critical moments. You should be feeding him the rock the same way that they were feeding James Conner the rock. James Conner gets a lot of soft tissue injuries. He's been injury prone. He just got back from injury. But you know what they did when he got back from injury? Give him the rock. Give him the rock. Give him the rock. You know what we're going to do next play? Give him the rock. It's time to get things done. It's very simple. Straight up and down, no special effects. So that's my take on it. Let me know what you guys think about that. But the Eagles have a lot of soul searching to do. But the issues that they're having, they are not skill issues. They are technical issues. And not even in the sense of guys are out of position or they're just not good enough. No, the talent's there. It's really about the arrogance in looking at how much talent you have and saying I can get away with taking a shortcut here or there, or over leveraging myself with one style of play calling because my talent will make up for it. That's why I think the main issue is with this team right now, and that's a coaching staff issue. Not necessarily the coaching, but the mindset, if that makes sense. They know Matt Patricia and Sirriani, they know how to call plays. They're not idiots. Matt Patricia, he's been around for years. He hasn't been a great as a coach, but he's been very, very good as a defensive coordinator. He obviously knows what he's doing, but I I think for the defensive side, the linebackers are really what's hurting. The Shaq Leonard is playing very well. He's been a great pickup, but having N'Kobe Dean out has really put us at a different disadvantage because you have Shaq Leonard play the ball snapped. He's immediately diagnosing the play and going to the right gap or covering the right receiver, diagnosing the play immediately. Whereas 57, I can't think of his name offhand, he's 1 2 seconds late in his reaction, and now you know exactly who to target in the pass and the run game, who to target on play action. All right, so maybe you can start to put Sidney Brown in that spot a little more often. Come out in with a one linebacker and safety look at linebacker. So you have Sidney Brown covering the tight end, and then you have Shaq Leonard, with his eyes either spying the quarterback or covering the running back out of backfield. And then you could start to cover up for some of the deficiencies that some of the backup linebackers have. I'd rather them do that and maybe take a hit at safety. Maybe you can move Avonte Maddox over to safety sometimes when you want to move Sidney Brown down into the box. But that's what I would do. But that's not really a huge deal. That's not really why they're losing. I think the big issue is Shaq Leonard is getting to the gaps properly, but when 57's been missing those gaps, is when you get touchdown runs from Saquon Barkley last week, even though we beat him. I mean, one of the touchdown runs he had was directly because one linebacker is doing his job and the other one is not diagnosing the play very quickly. And you're seeing the same thing week after week after week. I mean, you can even go back to the 2004 season with Andy Reid. And we had that loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I think week 8 or something like that. We lost 27-3, got the brakes beat off of us. And one of the big issues was that Mark Semino, linebacker, was a liability to the point where they had to bring in Jeremiah Trotter, who didn't really have great knees at that point, but mentally he diagnosed plays and got downhill way faster. Okay, so even though eventually the coverage became an issue, the fact that he could diagnose the play and at least be in the vicinity of the receiver for a pass or in the vicinity or be going downhill to smack a running back because he diagnosed it quickly made all the difference. And we are not even in that spot in terms of our linebacker deficiencies. At least we have a Shaq Leonard, right? You have multiple things you can do, but you have to. Um, I think you have to start rotating Sidney Brown down into the box. Even if you don't want to put him in linebacker, just start rotating him down into the box from time to time. And he already hits hard. He lays the wood. He can be that hybrid safety linebacker for you and cover up that deficiency. But their biggest issue is on offense, just with the concepts, the route concepts, how long they're taking to develop, and the lack of pre-snap motion. Those are the three things that stick out to me the most, and they're very easily fixable issues. So make of that what you will. Uh, Hope you guys stay safe over the holidays. Enjoy your New Year's. I hope you're being safe today. And I'm gonna go ahead and drop a video about Earl Spence. He put a tweet out talking about he's back. So we're gonna talk some boxing too after this episode. But thank you all for tuning in. Be safe, and as always, it's still go Birds, man. Don't forget that. Peace.